Newcastle, 34 wins this calendar year. That has broken a new top-flight record that was held by the great Liverpool team of the early 80s. So when Liverpool take to the field at Tottenham, they'll be 4 behind City, and as Phil was alluding to there, Chelsea now 6 behind the leaders as well. Tottenham, incidentally, could go level on points with West Ham in 5th if they were able to beat Jurgen Klopp's side later. Newcastle remain second from bottom. They remain on 10 points level with Norwich, who now have a game in hand on Eddie Howe's side. And talking of games in hand, Newcastle have played 3 more than Burnley and 2 more than 4th from bottom Watford. 11 goals in 2 games for Manchester City. Their goal difference, look at that, now bang level with Liverpool and a 4-point lead over Jurgen Klopp's side before they play Tottenham. But significantly, Chelsea, after that draw with Wolves, 6 behind City, having played both 18 games.
Thomas, bearing in mind the circumstances, are you pleased with the point, or is that 2 lost?
I don't care about the point. I'm pleased with the performance, especially in second half. First half was a bit struggle for us, and we had to grow into the game. Some difficulties to adapt. After we started good, but then we lost control and were a bit too shy and a bit too late in the challenges. Had to adapt to some new positions, like Trevor Chalobah in midfield. So this is also on me and to the situation. But second half, very good half, very strong performance. Enough to win the game. We're not lucky in the moment to win these games, but there's no problem because I'm happy how we played and what we invested. So it was nice to watch, nice to coach on the sideline. It's good.
Well, Pep, what's the story of today from your point of view?
Good result in a not good performance. We were lucky in the well, it was a good action, but Newcastle didn't defend well in the first goal. And after the second one, brilliant action from Joao, but the first half was the one we have played this season. And the second half was much better.
We keep mentioning it, the margin for error decreasing. Because of that, more importance for Chelsea today, given their bumps in the road recently?
Oh, 100%. Chelsea can't really afford another bad result until, of course, the other teams maybe have a bad result, because if they lose at any point now and go 7 points behind the leaders, I think Manchester City are too good to drop that type of advantage, and Liverpool the same. So Chelsea all of a sudden have put themselves into a vulnerable position, I feel. I still feel it's a 3-horse race, but, you know, they've got to be careful. If this indifferent run, let's say, continues, then they're going to slip out the title race. And nobody really envisaged that happening so early.
Is there a concern, as Michael said, that the 3-horse race could become 2?
Well, I think it will do if they come unstuck today. I think it's a massive game for them. It really is. And they're playing a Wolves side that I've seen them recently. They look really good. You wouldn't want to be playing Wolves today. I don't care who you are, especially in the run that Chelsea find themselves. They really should be higher in the league, Wolves, I believe. Some of the performances they've put in. They're a tough nut to crack. Chelsea are going to have to be patient to break them down. The key reason why they can't trip up as well, I believe, is that they've still got to go to City, Chelsea. City beat them at the Bridge. Now, that's a big, you know, when they're 6-pointers. When Liverpool play City or
well, Glenn, they've actually got to play Liverpool and City next month.
Exactly. So they've got to go away from home and do the, you know, and City have got the home advantage against Liverpool, I think, and Chelsea. So that's why you can't come unstuck as well. On top of what we're saying, 7 points is a big gap, but going, you know, knowing you've got to go to City where you think, well, we can claw those points back again, but it's away from home, it's going to be tough.
And the other issue for Chelsea at the moment, when you look at your former club at the top, they're showing absolutely no sign of dropping a single point anywhere.
No, they're in a real rich vein of form, Steve, at the minute. They're fantastic to watch. Different players coming in with different goals as well. I fear from my other club, Newcastle, today. Obviously, Man City, Newcastle. It's a tough game for Newcastle in the position they're in. But Man City are really flying at the top of the league. The confidence is high, and the players he's got to pick from, you know, Pep Guardiola is some of the best players in the league. I think, you know, Jack Grealish, I think, misses out today. Was brilliant. Probably his best game the other night, which was a surprise. But the Foden comes in, you know, Sterling, all these brilliant players you've got to pick from. It's they're really looking on form at the minute.
Given City's form and Liverpool there, the fact that these two managers have been through this race before, Klopp and Guardiola, does that count for anything?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. I think players, manager, experience, of course, it counts. They've had the tussle between themselves over the last few years. And a lot of people, me included at the start of the season, thought, wow, Chelsea are certainly going to rough them up this season. Actually, a lot of people thought Manchester United would as well. They've dropped away early, but it looks at the moment as if Chelsea are the next team to drop away unless they can rekindle that form that they're on. And we see the table. I mean, there is a tiny little gap appearing at the moment. They can't let that grow any more. Otherwise, they're going to be, in there. I feel as probably the top two, and then there's one, and then there's the group. But they've got to make strides to keep tabs with those top teams at the moment and make it a three-horse race.
And is that because of the standards of City and Liverpool, the consistency, Glenn?
Yeah, that's the difference at the moment. Listen, early in the season, Chelsea looked more consistent than anyone in the league, to be honest. The thing is with Chelsea, they're still creating, by the way. I've seen them lose games. West Ham, they should have been 3 or 4 up before West Ham started. And there's games where I've seen it, where they're not putting that finishing touch to some lovely moves. And if that happens, then the pressure. And they've been giving stupid goals away. There's been some awful goals they've given away. They look really tight, and suddenly it's the defensive side of their game. Ironically, they've missed, your midfield players have gone out. Jorginho, Conte, Kovacic. There's a whole glut of midfield players that I think defend in front of that back three that gave them that sort of security. That went out the window, and consequently, they've found it hard to get the clean sheets that they were getting earlier in the season. So I think it's on the defensive side. They still create at the moment. It's not like the manager Tuchel's saying we're not creating anything. They've got to put their the finishing touches away, but they've got so many players out at the moment at the top end of the pitch.
Yeah, we'll come to that in a moment. Yeah, they're 5 games without a clean sheet. They've conceded 8 in that period, longest since Thomas Tuchel took charge. We've praised him for that. Is this just a temporary bump on the road, do you think?
Yeah, I think Glenn makes a good point with the sort of protection missing in front of the back 4, the back 5, whatever they're going to play. But I think Mendy in recent weeks as well, the goalkeeper, has had a bit of an iffy time. Glenn mentions the West Ham game, he had a really poor game, 2 goals probably were at his, but he's done brilliant since he come to the club, so he's had a little dip recently. And yeah, they're missing key players with injury and COVID or whatever, but it's a concern. I mean, they won obviously the end of last season, won the Champions League, and they've started this season on fire. And you thought, this is real Chelsea's, this could be their season to win the league again back, and it's not been the case. But we look at the table there before, so it's only 4 points. It's not a disaster. I do fancy them today to go to the Midlands and probably win the game, albeit it'll be a tough game, but they're still within touching distance. Let's not get too far out. Still December, they've still got plenty of games to play. They've still got plenty of big players to come back into the team as well, and I think it'll still be a 3-horse race, Mo, by the end of today.
They've hit a couple of fences, Chelsea, in that long, hard race, which it is, the Premier League. They've hit a couple of fences, and Michael knows better than me.
Well, he doesn't. He's a flat man, really.
Yeah, but you've got to respond. Does your horse buckle? Does the jockey? But they've got to respond and go again. You don't see City doing that. That's the thing. I'm not sure City are going to hit a few fences at the moment. They're clearing them pretty well. But that's the standard that City have got under their belt. They really have.
Sprinters, your horse, isn't it?
Absolutely. I don't do that long distance stuff. All short distance.
As a player or as a trainer.
Exactly.
You'd know, Glenn. You'd know.
No, I mean, it's there, isn't it? It's a pivotal point this time of the year. It always has been, always will be. Around the festive period, games come thick and fast. Of course, then you've got the added thing at the minute, of course, where there's lots of games being postponed and chopped and changed. So it's an interesting point, but they have got to keep tabs in this really important area. And they've got the squad to do so. Could have a couple of people missing with injuries or COVID-related problems or whatever, but they've still got a very strong team. Every time you see the Chelsea team, it looks strong enough to do the job. They have to keep doing it.
OK, yeah, we'll touch on Liverpool and Manchester City in a
an interesting point, but they have got to keep tabs in this really important area. And they've got the squad to do so. Could have a couple of people missing with injuries or COVID-related problems or whatever, but they've still got a very strong team. Every time you see the Chelsea team, it looks strong enough to do the job. They have to keep doing it.
Well, these are unprecedented times, but they are strong words. From a managerial point of view, can you empathise?
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, at the moment, it's a strange, you've got to look at the health of the players first and foremost, and everyone else around. As he said, they travel in the bus, they lunch together, there's meetings. It's ways, people imagine it's out in a training ground where you're not going to catch it as easy. But they're travelling together, they're meeting together, eating together. So he's concerned, you can tell that. And he can see that he's, you know, the negative test, but he sent people home to protect his own staff, his own players and everyone in the camp. And that's a big call to do that. They've obviously got some symptoms. This is where it's so well, you're scratching your head in many ways with this thing because you don't know whether you've got it or not. You really don't. And I think it's more and more as we go along the lines, it's being proved that way. So I don't know what needs to be done. I think we need to shut down personally because I think it's going to get worse before it gets easier. And I think it's making it a bit of a mismatch of a league this year when teams can't choose their players, like the examples he's just said. And it's every club. Yeah, but we don't quite know who's had how many COVID cases that they've, you know, kept out the team. There's nothing on record about that. So it is going to be it's a bit of a mismatch, really, this year, I've got to say. But it is what it is until the people make the decision. And if that has to come from the government, it should come from the government. But I think the whole of the country is in that sort of state at this moment in time, let alone football. But you've got to take the safety of people. People come before any sport.
Mm. Yeah, it's a very difficult situation. We've been here before, and of course we're here again, and it makes it more difficult when certain games are being postponed and some aren't. You know, you don't know what the criteria is. Is it a set amount of players? Is it this or that and the other? But hey, we've got 3 games to look forward to today. This game is going on, so you know, you can tell Thomas Tuchel's not too happy about it, but they've got a job to do. They have to do the job. You know, they can't afford to lose today. And it's a very difficult game they've got to play.
Yeah. And let's have a look at the team. Chalobah and Kante are back. And they're both going to play in midfield. We understand Chalobah alongside Kante. Pulisic continuing up front. As you heard him say there, no Havertz, Werner, Lukaku, Hudson-Odoi. All those attacking options unavailable to Thomas Tuchel today. Kovacic has been out for 11 games. He's a substitute. And as you can see, Chelsea have named only 6 substitutes, and 2 of those are goalkeepers. Mind you, that's the most important position, Shane.
Oh, obviously. No, I mean, I'm sure there's Chelsea got one of the best academies in the league as well. I'm sure they have players they can put on the bench. I know there's this bubble you have to protect, but there's testing in place now. As Michael says, we've been here before. Surely there's doctors and procedures they can put in place. Because even if I was an academy kid now at Chelsea looking at the team sheet, there's positions on the bench that I could be filling. And the experience they would gain from going to Wolverhampton Wanderers today and maybe even making their Premier League debut, you know, that's a day they'll never forget. So I think they've missed a trick there. But as Mo says before as well, the team is still very, very strong. It's a team full of international players and a team good enough to go to Wolverhampton today to win, albeit it won't be an easy game. I mean, the question mark would be over Kante and Chalobah and people like that who have come just back from COVID or injury. How many training days have they had? Because by listening to Tuchel, he was kind of saying, well, some of them haven't trained very well. Some of them just living to put on the pitch because they haven't, but for whatever reason, had the time to work with them. And that's maybe why he wanted the game called off. But as Michael mentioned as well, I think the clarity needs to be better because some games are getting called off, some aren't. What's the number? How many players have to have the COVID for them to cancel? And every squad's got a 25-man squad. So surely if they have X amount of players and there's some clarity from the Premier League, X amount of players are missing, then you can call the game off. Because at the minute it sounds like we're just phoning my mate up, can you get the game called off, yes, no, or whatever, and some teams are getting it called off, some aren't. So the integrity of the league is coming into question, if you ask me, and that's not a good thing.
Well, there's still 17 players there, and they're all international players, ready to play this game.
Of course, yeah, and I don't think, from a quality point of view, I think Chelsea are probably the least effective from that point. I mean, they've got the deepest squad in the Premier League. Of the depth of quality in there is quite staggering. But that's not the point, I suppose. If you ask Thomas Tuchel, you know, he's saying, well, yeah, there's a few of these that haven't trained though, and there's a few of these I want more options. I want, you know, certain players that can't be here. So it's understandably a frustration for the manager. It's you know, we've said it before, and it feels like you're repeating yourself from a year ago. But these are really strange times that everybody's got to get through, and you've got to trust the people in charge. You've got to, you know, get out there and put all that behind you. Because at the end of the day, there's a Premier League trophy that's going to be lifted at the end of the season. And Chelsea want that to be them. That's why they've invested. That's why they employ Thomas Tuchel. So, yeah, put all your grievances to a side for now. and go out and get a result against Wolves.